Let's check. Testing. Check, check. Check.
Good afternoon, one and all. It's my pleasure to invite you all who have assembled here and elsewhere in all other lecture halls at our main campus as well as our off-campus to this important address by our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. May I now request our beloved Dean of Faculty, Professor N. Anandakrishnan, sir, and our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, to come over to the dais. Thank you, sirs. I request all of you to rise for SBV anthem.
Vidyadadati vinayam, vinayadadati patrata. Vidyadadati vinayam, vinayadadati patrata. Patratvandanapnoti dhanadharmam tata sukham. Patratvandanapnoti dhanadharmam tata sukham.
Education gives humility. Humility gives character. From character, one gets wealth. From wealth, one gets righteousness. In righteousness, there is joy.
Thank you. We feel honored in having Professor Nihar Ranjan Biswas, sir, the Vice Chancellor designate in our midst. I now request Dean of Faculty, Professor N. Anandakrishnan, sir, to introduce the theme of today's address by our Vice Chancellor.
Good afternoon to everyone gathered here and in the other halls. Today is a very significant day for us when our Vice Chancellor is going to address the student community on the topic of research. I've been given the task of introducing the theme and why it has been chosen for today's address. As you know, we are a health science higher educational institution, SBV, ranked 70th in the country in the National Institution Ranking Framework, in the top 100 for the last 4 years. We've been given the highest NAC grading of A2+ in the second round of NAC accreditation inspection last year. In the first grade, we got A, and the second, we got A2+. And our focus is on education. And that's what we have been doing from the time this university started in the year 2008. We are in the 15th year of our existence now. What is education? if you look at it lightly, the two famous quotations about education are from Mark Twain and Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein said, if you learn everything that you have learned in school, what remains is education. That's his way of looking at it. And Mark Twain went even further and said, I never let schooling interfere with my education. I don't think they're meant to decry education as a process, but they wanted to draw attention to the fact, perhaps they were referring to what is called the hidden curriculum, the transfer of soft skills, which they learn in the school other than their lessons. Let us introspect. It's time now to introspect and see what exactly a higher educational institution should do, what is meant by education. In pure pedagogic terms, education is defined as a process of bringing about a desirable change in the behavior of students, which is relatively permanent. Now, when we use the term behavior, here it is the pedagogic behavior, not the psychological behavior, which means change in their knowledge, their attitude, and their skills. That is what we should be doing in all these three areas, both in the overt curriculum and the hidden curriculum. In the field of attitude, for a long time, very little was done. It was left to the students to learn themselves from their teachers and other mentors. If you're lucky enough to get a good mentor, you will develop proper attitudes. Otherwise, you'll go out without developing good attitudes. That was the stage. Till in the recent competency-based medical education, the 8Com module was introduced to focus exclusively on this aspect of soft skills and professionalism. Attitude, ethics, and communication module. And with that being important, this deficiency in attitude and development and professionalism has been taken care of by the regulatory agencies. Next, we come to the field of skills, skill development. Are we happy that all of our students are adequately skilled when they go out? And I don't think anybody here can honestly put a hand on their heart and say, yes, we are doing. That's why the regulatory agency again has embedded the so-called simulation labs in their curriculum, so that what is deficient in clinical training or practical training can be made up to some extent by the simulation training. So they are making efforts. So that leaves us to consider the field of knowledge, or what we call in education as the domain of cognition. Now, knowledge is again consists of three processes: acquisition of knowledge, transfer of knowledge, and invention or discovery of new knowledge. All have to be done in educational institutions. One thinks we only transfer knowledge, which the public conception of teaching is transfer of knowledge from the teacher to the taught. But transfer doesn't occur these days only from the teacher. Transfer occurs from so many other sources of information, which are far more important as far as current students are concerned than teachers. The social media, for instance. The ubiquitous Google, for instance. A lot more transfer of knowledge occurs from there. Teachers are part of that system. Acquisition of knowledge is very important. Again, acquisition of knowledge is not important only for students. Acquisition of knowledge is equally important for teachers. There was a paper which I read some time ago, which never leaves my mind. I think of it often and I quote it very often, by a social scientist called Peter Denson. Peter Denson said, in 1950, the doubling time of medical knowledge was 30 years. That means if you enroll yourself in medicine in 1950, you can complete medicine, join service, probably retire from service, and the knowledge that you gained in medical school would still be current. 30 years later, in 1980, the doubling time of medical knowledge was reduced to 7 years. By the time you finish MBBS in 5.5 years and you're halfway through your PG, the knowledge has doubled. In 2010, it came down to 3.5 years. Halfway through your MBBS program, knowledge is already doubled. And in 2020, you won't believe this. I was shocked when I saw this figure. The doubling time of medical knowledge is 73 days, 2.5 months, every 2.5 months. That shows you the importance of acquisition of knowledge, constant acquisition of knowledge. Otherwise, you are hopelessly outdated. That's why when they define the Indian medical graduate, an important characteristic they said is lifelong learner. The Indian medical graduate has to be a lifelong learner, knowing that what he has learned in school, it changes every 2.5 months. And that applies to teachers also. So acquisition of knowledge is very important, both for teachers and students. And so we saw also was transfer of knowledge, not only from teachers. But the third domain of knowledge is probably the most important today in 2023, which is creation of new knowledge. That is why we in India are lagging behind. Look at the list of Nobel laureates. They can be counted in fingers of one hand from India. Whereas if you take institutes like the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, every year they have 1 or 2 Nobel laureates. Why is it so that we have to think hard to find 4 or 5 Nobel laureates? Because this discovery of new knowledge, which goes under 2 names. One aspect of discovery of new knowledge is research. And the other aspect of discovery of new knowledge is the development of intellectual property rights. IPR and research are the 2 eyes of discovery and invention of new knowledge. Neither of this takes place here. What is the index of research in a country? There's only one index, and that is the number of publications which come out from that country. That is an indirect index of research. 30 years ago, in 1990, India contributed 0.23% of total publications in the scientific field, just 0.23%. And China was 0.33%. And the United States at that time was 38%. More than 1/3 of new knowledge came from United States, and 0.23% from India and 0.33% from China. In 2020, United States has not lagged behind, but proportionately it has fallen. The research output from United States is only 18% of global output. From the 38, it has come down to 18. India has gone up from 0.23 to 4%. But China has overtaken today USA, and it is 19%. USA is down to 16%. Because that is the country which lays emphasis. Every other country in the world, be it United States or the so-called developed countries, be it the Southern Hemisphere, Australia and New Zealand, or Europe, research training is mandatory right from the undergraduate days. They have to do a project, everybody, and submit it and get it valued. This is one country where the undergraduate research is left to the so-called STS project of ICMR, where amongst the 1 lakh students in India in joining MBBS course, maybe about 1,000 do it in all the institutions of the country. That is the sum total of research training. That is why we are still at 4%, and China has gone to 18% of research output. So you can understand the importance of research in modern context, in the context of how knowledge is changing. So Vice Chancellor has very rightly chosen to speak on that subject today and draw attention to the minds of all of you who are in the growing phase of your career, that routine work is not enough. Routine acquisition of knowledge is not enough. Transfer which occurs from teachers, your peers and near peers is not enough. But you must be part of that movement which creates new knowledge. And you create new knowledge by producing patents, by producing copyrights, by doing other intellectual property activities, and by doing research and getting it published for dissemination. Nothing is more important in education today than research. If you don't do this, Mark Twain would have been correct, and Albert Einstein also would have been correct, that I never let schooling interfere with my education, or if you forget all that you learn in school, what remains is education. We don't want to prove them correct, prove them wrong by participating in research. And that is why the Vice Chancellor has chosen that particular topic for discussion today. We'll all be eagerly waiting to hear, so I'll not stand between you and him. I request the Vice Chancellor to please give his talk on research, the importance of research in the context of career advancement in 2023. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for wonderfully highlighting the theme of today's talk. May I now request our Honorable Vice Chancellor to address the audience. Please, sir.
It's coming. Okay. Love it. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Esteemed Professor Krishnan, Dean Faculties, esteemed Professor Vishwas, our Vice Chancellor Designate of our university, and all the heads of the departments, heads of the institutes, my dear Register of our university, Sri Balaji Vidyapith, dear faculties, and above all, my dear students, both undergraduate and postgraduates, across all the disciplines of health sciences in our university, stretching to health science, from health sciences to nursing, dentistry, pharmacy, allied health sciences, and so on. At the outset, it's my immense pleasure on behalf of large family of Sri Balaji Vidyapith, popularly referred to as SBV, and on behalf of our respected Chancellor, Sri M. K. Gopalan, and on my personal behalf, it's my immense pleasure to welcome you to this meeting, a forum in which I like to share some of my thoughts on importance of research, that is particularly to career progressions. When we think of research, let's align what our Dean Academic, Dr. Anand Krishnan, has rightly mentioned, the value of the research. And he has given a real and excellent statistics that reflected in 90s, India was contributing less than 0.38% of total publications in India. US was 1/3 of the total publication, 38%, and China was the second. Now, in this century, you see, 21st century, China has overtaken US. US is in between to 16%, and India is trying its level best to more than 4%. And if I'm given the opportunity to share about the either developed or developing countries, knowledge is power. And that is what now happening. China is becoming most powerful country, being reflected by this publication, 30, more than so much of publications. US is coming down and India is uprising. In essence, in science and background, research value is very much immense. In this 30 to 45 minutes, my deliberations and discussion with you, I'll try to share my thoughts in most two ways. First, I'll share my thoughts, what we do understand by the term research. And most important thing is that in pertaining to the field of undergraduate research particularly, and what benefits we get about in this undergraduate research, and as Vice Chancellor of this eminent universities, which has been accredited A++ this last year, being among top 70 medical universities among NRF, what we expect of the students in field of research. I'll share some of my experience. I was a student like you, but the only difference is I was a student in 20th century with no internet, with no email, with no digital technologies. That time, when we are students, what we are thinking about the research, about the profession of research, maybe we used to get a big ideas of this. A person who should do research should be very wearing a white coat, something like with unmanaged hair, with thick trimmed glasses, and some lots of pens, and the dirty marks as a result of spills and so on. Maybe during when I was studying class 9th and 10th, maybe I was thinking you should look like that to become a research worker. But maybe slowly, I don't know how many of you imagine what is how a research worker should look like. It might be different, but slightly more. It should not be there. So close your eyes. Imagine a researcher. How you like to visualize him? Does it look like this? Obviously never. Well, this is what I told you as a school student I was. Many of you, if you are visualized, it's better. If you are not visualized, you would have different ways. So now when we think of a doctor, how we visualize, ask any lay persons. This is how a good doctor, a clinician visualized. Clean and neat, confident. Maybe it is, people believe, obviously, that doctors are most well paid. And because he's well paid, she is well paid, they are having this demeanor like this. But we know both these perceptions are not correct, but definitely when you are asked to choose what you would like to become, most of you have chosen or will choose, you would like to choose become a good doctor. I hope I'm right. I have done the correct thing while I was a student. I have chosen to be a doctor. I have got no regret for this. I have no regret that I have chosen a doctor because of many things. One of the most important things that in my ambience, in my institutes, in my alma mater, where I have worked, that has contributed to thinking of my perception toward the research. I'm always filled of my alma maters. I did my MBBS in one of the most eminent medical institutes in India, in Odisha, SBV Medical College. That while I was doing MBBS, it changed my mind. I was convinced that I must be a good clinician. I was seeing how the clinicians are contributing a lot to the health of the society, to the care of the patients. Then I moved to Institute of Medical Science, Varanasi in the universities. I must admit, I was not exposed to that much component of research while I was undergraduate students, because during that time in 1970s, component of research, even among the faculties, was less. So when I moved to the Institute of Medical Science in 1978 to do my MD, microbiology, that changed my entire thinking, my scenario. I'm always grateful to Almighty that I was given the opportunity to work under my teacher, my guide, Professor Swasti Sanyal, who was the eminent medical microbiologist and is known world over on video. Maybe that changed my interest, that motivated me, that at least let me see, if not at all like I can do for my great teacher, Dr. Sanyal, I like to do something on research. This I tell to enhance, to share that it is your ambience, it is your colleagues, it is your teacher sometimes will contribute to what you will be in a professional career. Now, when we think of researchers, what is researchers? We should not carry out an idea, anybody who speaks, who sits in the four walls of a lab and do some research, bring up some paper and other things, become researchers. And if you look deeply into the way we all grow up, you will understand each one of us was a born researchers. A child was born. He or she asks questions of parents, different questions, different answers. That's what we're asking in our research methodologies, research hypothesis, questions. We cross each milestone by looking, by feeling, by hearing, and learning about the things around us, just by asking questions. More questions you ask, more knowledgeable you ask, and you have becomes more clarity in and out. Why, how, when, who, and where? 5 important questions. I'm sure throughout your career till now, all of you are here would have asked these questions ample number of times in a different environment. Hence, this art of asking questions and finding solution is a virtue of the human race only. That is why human race is characteristic and interesting. No live animals have these questions. So no other living being can do these things. So what is research? Research is derived from the old French word chercher, meaning to seek or search. It means to seek or to search diligent and systemic investigation into a subject, to discover or revise facts, theories, applications, or explain natural phenomena. This research also asks to generate new knowledge or add to the existing knowledge. That is what we are interested, particularly in a University of Health Sciences like ours in healthcare and delivery systems. There are various types of researchers categorized on various parameters. This is just to show you how many types of researchers one can do in life, not just in our professions. I'm not going to delve in depth here. There are a few examples in which how the research is being carried out. Now, with this background of research, in general, in about the background of research in a University of Health Sciences or Institute of Research Sciences, what are the contributions of the students to research? Contributions of research are many. It's not what we are talking now. This contribution to research was also well recognized in the beginning of the 20th century. Just here I quote few examples. In the April 1897, Walter Bradford Cannon, a first-year medical student at Harvard, and a second-year medical student, Albert Moser, succeeded to the radiographic visualization of peristalsis in a cat and a subsequent report of the event in Science. That were the first-year students in year 1897. Then most of our students should have learned about the cat's discovery of insulin. Insulin was discovered in the year 1921 in Canada by not a faculty or a so-called dedicated research worker, but by a student, Charles Herbert Best, at the age of 22 years. And it was a case of Ballycatter and Dr. Anne Lickhardt. They discovered about anesthetic, ethylene anesthesis. They're all students. So it means if we are not doing as a student, undergraduate research means we are not doing what your seniors as students they did it. Hence, there's a lot of contribution of the students, undergraduates in particular, for the path breaking. So research is not new. As you can see, some of these inventions and discoveries students have made in the medical field is immense. Now, again, to give few more examples, in Lawrence Baldwin, in the year, he discovered Dr. Baldwin at his kidney tubules. Then Charles Chagas discovered the disease in 1809, this Chagas disease caused by Trypanosoma cruzi, the agents of American trypanosomiasis. Hence, we call them as Chagas. Heparin, the sinoarterial nodes are just some of the major discoveries made by medical students, all of which have made a huge impact on the practice of surgery. These examples and more will illustrate the importance of the undergraduate research in medicines. Hence, what I wish to convey, that I want all of you students to take the message that research is an inseparable part of human life. As it is as old as consciousness of human mind, because through research we progress, through progress we develop, and by developing we become power. And in that continuous activities, undergraduate research plays an important role. Now I'll just list, what are the 5 core competencies in the research in this 21st century of health professionals. Because why I call 21st century health professionals? Because unlike me, I'm a 20th century health professional, but all of you here are 21st century health professionals. As 21st health century professionals, you must be acquiring such as provide patient-centered cares, work in a interdisciplinary teams. That is what our National Education Policy 2020 is putting on. It's a dedicated document which once the Institute of Higher Education, any education should focus on multidisciplinary teams and work in a interdisciplinary team, apply quality improvement, utilize informatics, and the most important component of this 21st century health professional is employ evidence-based practice. This last competency requires that all of you acquire analytical skills. And this is the most hallmark and important distinguishing component of the 21st century, that is to practice, to follow, and to adopt, employ evidence-based practice. And these analytical skills include many components that includes research and innovations, inquiry-based learning, critical thinking, creative thinking, problem solving, and decision making. Because when all of you will emerge, students who are here, undergraduate or postgraduates, as graduates or postgraduates in different health professions, you must be able to evolve beyond remembering, understanding, and applying, but shift to the component of analyzing, evaluating, and creating. And these are most important components in research. Now, when we talk of evidence-based research has three important components. It is conscientious, explicit, and judicious use of current best evidence in making clinical decisions in patient care. Hence, it integrates the experience of the clinicians, the value of the patients, and the best available evidence. To summarize, when the experience of the clinicians, the values of the patients, and the best available evidence, they confluence together, they give the best outcome. That is the most important component of the research. It's about 5 A's. First, asking the right clinical question in a clinical problem, then accessing and collating the research-based evidence to answer the questions, then critically appraise the evidence if they are of utmost validity, and next is the applying the knowledge for the best care for the patients. The process indeed requires that every graduate has acquired research and appraisal skills. Here, just I like to emphasize, in the curriculum of the undergraduate or postgraduate, there is nothing separate called that which is only for domain of the academics, domain of the research, or domain of the clinical care. All are linked. Both are aligned together. If research becomes a part of a continuous academic activities, research becomes an integral part of this, of the clinical activities, and all this leads to the best for the patient healthcare. I do strongly believe research, in essence, is just like a soul of the human beings. It is the soul of the institutions, curriculum, and everything is integrated to have a better acquirement, better outcome of this process. So this, I can give an example that this lesson learned through this once in a pandemic, COVID-19 pandemics. During this COVID-19 pandemics, which we have all experienced for last 2 years, third year earnings of 3 years. During the COVID pandemic, if you remember, a wide platform was open, inviting ideas from all stakeholders to combat COVID, and that included students also. New knowledge through research and innovation was the need of the hour. Thus, you can understand that it is equal responsibility also to generate knowledge. If we generate knowledge, knowledge becomes power. That would help the community and the nations at the large. So, I used to summarize my take-home message on number 2, that research is an important responsibility to contribute to society and to the nations. Research is embedded in your healthcare profession. You don't have any such system that in your healthcare professions that research is separate, you will do separate research, or research is not required for my clinical care. Research is so strongly evident in your professions, in all the disciplines, that it contributes directly or indirectly to the component of academics, components of the outreach activities, and component of the best clinical management. Hence, research is most important that is embedded in your healthcare professions. Now, to promote the research, and in particular, the promote to the research in undergraduate, how the system in our country is functioning. First, I will give the examples of the initiatives of the government of India. Then I'll share some of the initiatives, examples of our university, Balaji Vidyapith, all those components, how we are trying to create an ecosystem for the undergraduate research in health sciences. The government of India has taken numerous initiatives to provide a research ecosystem for the young students like you. One, and the most of the students all must be knowing, is the ICMR STS fund that is being provided since the year 1979. You ask any students, particularly of medical and recently dental sciences, about the ICMR. Each and everybody will look for these ICMR students. And one of the most important aspirations of all the undergraduate students in medicines, now in dental, is to get ICMR STS during their studentship. That includes value to their professional career. And this was started in the year 1979 as first institutionalized approach by the government of India through Indian Council of Medical Research to promote the concept of research among the undergraduate students in 1979. And since then, it has been going with strong evolutions. And it was first started in 1979 as an annual honorarium of 5,000 rupees per month. Then in this next 5 years, they have enhanced the scholarship of the ICMR STS to 10,000, 15,000. Now it is 25,000 rupees per month. That becomes 50,000 for 2 months. This all has been done. The greater thrust that government of India is giving to the research on the undergraduate students. In this context, I'm very much happy that our university, Sri Balaji Vidyapith, is proud that since 2009, we have got 239 projects of our students having assisted. A great achievement by our achievements. Even our number of students who have got this number of more than 239 projects exceeds the students of eminent institutions around Pondicherry and outside. Our students have done exceedingly well. Why they have done well? Because our university, Balaji Vidyapith, since the beginning has made an important concept and decision that will promote undergraduate research. I'm sure this STS now, which we are doing very well, we hope most of the students, now we have expanded, now the ICMR is expanded to dental science students. I think all of them will combine together to have that leadership of having more and more number of ICMR STS projects in our universities. Again, another attempt by the government of India. The recent attempt of government of India is to promote innovation, invention, and discovery. They are promoting the concept of Make in India, that is through innovation. India produces its products so that it can make cost-effective technologies, cost-effective diagnostics, cost-effective therapeutics. In this regard, Ministry of Education has asked all organizations to start the Institute Innovation Councils to train and encourage students toward innovations. I am happy that your university, Balaji Vidyapith, also has one of the center for the creation of the innovation cells in our universities. And that is what we also, through that, we are promoting the concept of the research, concept of the culture of the research among the undergraduate students. Now, another most important component, that's what I like to share my thoughts, is the Kapila. It has been done in the name of our most honorable then President of India, Abdul J. Kalam. That program stands for proper Kalam program for IP literacy and awareness program, in order to provide young students awareness on IPR and also to provide financial assistance to students and patent publicists. Again, you should feel proud that ours is only one of the few health sciences universities who have taken a large stride in the components of IPR activities. That means copyrights, patents, technology transfer, and commercialization of the products. You'll be happy that till now, we have published more than 8 patents. We have got more than 180 patents we have been published, 8 patents granted, 180 patents published. and more than 300 copyrights. And you'll be more happy that of these, we have got many of the products that has been commercialized. By this mean, we have got SBV dental chair available in the market. We have got SBV dental chair exported to the country like USA, University of Iowa. It may be a small landmark, but it gives us a confidence that our universities, we can do if we, and few months back, we have also commercialized and released about the forceps, dental forceps in the field of dentistry. It was being released by, I said that dental forceps, which was released by Wilson, a manufacturing company in Bangalore, should have our insignia emblem of our university SBV. So any dentist who will be using that RTF forceps should know what this is SBV. That will speak the volumes of our strength in IPR activities and in terms of commercialization products, and that will contribute in a way. That's what our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi's efforts in Make in India concept. And in that, again, I'm so happy to share that the students we are trying to contribute to this cause of IPR activities in our universities. So what we are doing at university is we know that is this ICMR STS project so competitive. There are many students who have given good research projects but are not accepted by ICMR. We are promoting their interest on the students by starting 3 SBV STS. These are done to encourage those who could not succeed in obtaining the ICMR STS funds. And that have really appreciated by all our undergraduate students. And the most important thing is the SBV Innovation Cafe. We have started for the first time in any kind of universities, this SBV Innovation Cafe. That provides a good platform, good forum to think, brainstorming, innovate, and so that will give rise to encourage innovative ideas on patents and copyrights. And definitely, I think you won't be surprised that amongst the students, 30 students of Balaji Vidyapith SBV has got patents, a remarkable achievement. You go through any patents output of the students, particularly undergraduate student, in any eminent so-called famous students, institutes of the country, you won't find so many students having undergraduate students. That's what we have been, our university has been trying to, we are trying to align with the government initiatives. Again, we are supporting with the SBV STS funding, and we are promoting IPR such as patents, copyrights, and technology transfer activities in a big way. That's why we have started this Innovation Cafe, mainly for the students. We visualize they should come walk in with their ideas and give it a form. And that's what we are always happy that already around 30 patents and copyrights have been generated from the undergraduates. It's a remarkable achievement. Again, to facilitate further this undergraduate research in our SBV, we have identified a policy. We'll be implementing that policy to that which is called ARCH. ARCH means adopting research curriculum in health universities. I'll just share with you few salient features of this ARCH that we should be implementing in our university shortly. The main objectives of the curriculum model is to train all undergraduate students in research curriculum, to create a conducive ambience for undergraduate research, to train undergraduate students in intellectual property right and steps of copyrights, to facilitate undergraduate research publications, to create able researchers to work for the community and contribute for global practice of evidence-based medicines. Again, we have got different targets. Just I don't like to delve into details, but these are the methodologies which has been well defined to implement these art activities for the betterment of the undergraduate students, to promote the students in different phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4, and phase 4 being medical students, that module on publications. And the topics, while we start to study these topics and publication, is preparing a scientific manuscripts, publication ethics, author role and responsibilities, and how to search journal, and how and where to publish. So these are the various ways and component we have identified to introduce the research, starting from designing the concept and ending in the publications. And one of the most important component of this art is the rural community research, that we want to sensitize our students on community research and collection of community data through the maintenance of a research log book. So in essence, that the opportunity for research and innovations at your level are evident, and it is up to you to use them effectively for better progression in life and careers. While I do so that, just I'll try to align the components of the research in your life and your career, how it's going to help you. So now what is next? With reference to research. Now, right from 10th standard, you have been carrying these questions to you. What is next? Choosing your professional path has always been a tough call. You'd be under peer pressures to choose this line, to these other lines, teaching, learning, all those things. But some decisions you have taken, and at the end of your undergraduate programs, you must choose the relevance, know the relevance of the research in your careers. We can have relevance of research in different aspects. As far as the higher education institute is concerned, most of all will agree that postgraduate program becomes an important component of your career formations. From PG, some might progress towards PhD program. Some would take the higher studies abroad or to take a foreign for super specializations. But after your studies, most of you would take up clinical, or you may start off your own practice or attach yourselves to a hospital. Even some of you would take up academic career and venture into teachings and become academicians like all of us, what we are here, teachers, medical teachers, educationists. That could be one of the important career. This is how the career progression is going on. Just I like to focus three important components of career progressions and the beauty of having academicians in a medical institutions. That is the only professions that aligns all the components of being a clinicians, have a facility for teaching, and also to the research. You see, you have observed your teachers who are in these institutes, in different disciplines of this university. You will find most of them are always doing these components of clinical care, directly or indirectly, academics by teachings, and also carrying out research. It's a common misbelief that clinicians don't do research, or clinicians have own time for doing research. It is only non-clinicians, they can do research. They will be only research, even if they don't do good teachings. But in a good teacher, these are the three components. I'll give hundreds of examples. Many of you are sitting in this bench, your faculties. Just because I know them few, I have gone through their career together for the last 30, 40 years. I'll just give you an example of Dr. Anand Krishna, the great medical educationist, the surgeon for which we are always famous, for all who is famous because of surgical, and the great contributor for the health research in medical educations. He is a clinician, he is a good teacher, and he has done a contributor landmarks in the contributions of the research. I can give each and everybody of you examples how they're excelling in all the three domains, and clinicians are amalgamating the component of this research. They're teaching well. If you become a good research, your clinical management improves. If you become a good research worker, your academic validity becomes more and stronger. You ask anybody here, everybody else vouch with me. So in essence, what I like to convey, that don't think research is separate things. You will only do a career job to carry out research. As a clinicians, if you analyze the question, 5 questions, why, who, when, and when, and that I'll help to the outcomes. So now, what is why I'm talking so much? What is the impact of UG's research experience? I do believe, our university do believe strongly in impact of the undergraduate research. Because what is the impact of UG research experience? As you all know, when you are now undergraduates, when you become the postgraduates, now how you elevate yourself to the component of research. One of the most important component of the research is the dissertation or thesis. So what is dissertation thesis? You have to carry out a sample research problems, document it, and you are expected to publish some research papers out of that. And if those who undergoes through this concept of research in undergraduate, for them it will be a better learning experience. And that is what also we have done in our universities for the postgraduate students, writing research to papers, conversion of thesis to papers. That gives one close environment in which they are encouraged with support of the guys to write the papers. And of course, research publication helps in foreign and higher degrees you get. And obviously, after all, you have to move forward your career. And when you move forward to career, more you progress, you'll understand that every time your career progression or your career evaluations, you'll be always evaluated and judged by what is your research outcomes in terms of research publications. Now, in this century, you'll be evaluated more. What is your outcome in IPR activities, translational research? So that becomes the most integral part of your career formations. And that's what effective patient care, PPB in clinical careers. And now, when we talk of this 21st century, we must know world is changing tremendously. What was in 20th century, 21st century, tremendously different. It's because of Industrial Evolution 4.0. What is that Industrial Evolution 4.0 in fix? This includes artificial intelligence, robotics, big data, Internet of Things. And you must understand you are experiencing all these components in your day-to-day life, in your social life. Any example you give it, pilotless cars, pilotless flights, drones, and all those things, everything is surrounding on artificial intelligence and robotics. And I assure you, all these things will be reflected in your healthcare also. Hence, this artificial intelligence opens a large vista for research in healthcare. These are already game changer in healthcare, and you must capitalize on these opportunities. Again, to support your ambience, to support your aspirations, you'll be happy to know that our universities have started CHAIR, Center for Health Artificial Intelligence Research, that aims to promote the concept of this artificial intelligence and robotics, etc., about the students, either undergraduate research or postgraduate research. Hence, please take up this opportunity to study more and more in the undergraduate research. And now, of course, if you want to that, you focus your career on research, you can become fully professional careers. As you know, this Indian Council of Medical Research are being headed by all doctors. Dr. Somya Swaminathan, health directors, Dr. Balram, all are doctors. They have headed this eminent ICMR Institute, not for the contribution of clinical care, of course, part, but because they are thoroughly professional research fellows. They have made the career to different steps. They have worked in the ICMR institutes and pharmaceutical. So in this way, you can have a clinical research assistant, physician assistant, scientific or medical writer, healthcare data analysis, data managers, research fellows, and research position in pharmaceutical industries. Of course, we all will look at for these positions, when you submit your curriculum vitae, all will look about your research experience, what you gain in undergraduate or postgraduates. So this becomes an integral part of your career progression. So, dear students, so my final take-home message for you is that whatever career you choose, be a clinician, excellent, be an academician, excellent, and be a research proposal, excellent. Be it clinical or research separately, but research and innovation is embedded in all the options. It is inseparable in our lives as the healthcare professionals. It is something that will make us successful, not only in our professional life, but also our personal lives. More importantly, you will be able to contribute to your country and your countrymen in terms of healthcare and health science. That is what is our wish and what we expect. Our university experts, Balaji Vidyapith, from all students, undergraduate and postgraduates, think differently. Try to understand research and more. Try to give up these old preconceived notions and be a health professional in 21st century, in which health research is most integral component. If you neglect research, your outcome will be poor. If you strongly embedded your research in these components, your outcome in professional career will be strong and successful. Just I'll conclude this one slide. Can you identify? She is one among the numerous inventors in the globe. Her name is Miss Kavya. She was 19-year-old, and she is an Indian American who used artificial intelligence to improve treatment for glioblastoma, the deadliest forms of brain cancer. And if she can do, why not you? You are second to none. You are second not to her. You can do. Our university sincere wishes that all of you should become one among like these celebrities. I am sure and I'm confident that the ambience which will be created for all of you, one day, definitely a SBV graduate or SBVian will figure in the history of humankind on such a path-breaking innovations for which we'll be proud of that she was or he was our SBVian, and he or she was so proud of that she gets the immense facilities ecosystem while he or she was a student of one of the upcoming progressive universities, Balaji Vidyapith. I just like to conclude with the message of Einstein, which was initiated also concept by our Dean faculty, Dr. Anand Krishna has given. I like to end this quote from Albert Einstein: be professionally curious about everything. And that what is research? It is not some far-fetched dream. If you think you can do that, I hope you'll be successful and we'll be proud of you, the students, the way you'll be proud of our university, Balaji Vidyapith. My blessings to each one of you. Thank you so much for patience learning.
Thank you, sir, for the inspiring words that would go a long way in nurturing the young minds in the realms of evidence-based research for the larger benefit of our community. May I request our Dean of Faculty, Professor Anand Krishnan, sir, for his closing remarks.
On behalf of all of you present in this hall and in other halls, I wish to thank Professor Parija for an inspiring talk. I wish all of you, please give him a standing ovation. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for an address. An address which was inspiring, and I hope which went to the heart and mind of each and every one of you. You have to start young. The proverb goes, you cannot teach an old dog new tricks. We are all old dogs, so we cannot learn new tricks. It is at your point in life that you have to learn the importance of research. Spend your heart and soul in acquiring knowledge throughout your life, because that is when you will remain updated and be able to serve the community for which you have come here to be trained. Share the knowledge with everybody that you have acquired so that you build evidence. Knowledge is the only wealth which the more you share, the more increases. Every other type of wealth, you give it away, you will become poorer. But when you give away knowledge, you become richer. And create new knowledge, like that young girl has done. And so many other young people which our Vice Chancellor has told, like including the famous Charles Herbert Best. The story about Best is, he was part of the team which discovered insulin, along with MacLeod and Banting. But he was a medical student, and nobody will know more than my friend Ashok Das, who is a diabetologist. But when the Nobel Prize was announced, MacLeod did not contribute. He only lent his lab. Banting got the Nobel Prize. I don't think Best was part of the team which got, although he did all the lab work. Sometimes life will leave you behind, but that is not important. Best has become much more famous than MacLeod anyway. That is the message. As you go through life, you will come to a fork in the road. Never go to the road which is beaten, which has been traveled a lot. You'll only end up in another crowd. Take the road which is less trodden. And that's what the very famous poet Ralph Waldo Emerson said. He said, do not take where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail behind. That's what you all youngsters have to do. Take this message. Who could have given it better than our Vice Chancellor, who is amongst the top 2% of world scientists in the field of tropical parasitology. So take that message, spread it around, and this institute, this university will stand by you. We have a very eminent researcher coming as the incoming Vice Chancellor. He has also focused a lot on research. He is a clinical pharmacologist of great repute. This university will always help you to progress in life where research is concerned. Take that message. I must thank Professor Parija once again, sir, for your very inspiring address. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you all. The meeting is concluded.